Hello, my name is Adeena Sussman, and I'm an American-Israeli chef and the cookbook author of Shabbat. Tonight, I'm your proud host for A Great Miracle Happened Here, JDC's annual Chanukah celebration. For each of the next 8 nights, we'll be celebrating the light of humanity by focusing on different Jewish values, everything from chesed to simcha to kehillah. And you can learn more at jdc.org/Chanukah. Tonight, as we kick off the Festival of Lights, we're guided by arevut, the notion of guarantorship. Simply put, it's the idea that us Jews all around the world have one another's backs. And it comes from the Talmudic notion of Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. All Jews are responsible for one another. It's something that I feel deeply as a resident of Tel Aviv, where I've lived for the better part of the last decade. I absolutely love Israel, its vibrant and dynamic cities, the strength and spirit of the people, and of course, the delicious spices and unique flavors that make the country's multicultural food scene so very special. These last few weeks, like all of you, I've watched in pain and anguish as my Israeli brothers and sisters have endured one of the darkest periods in the country's history. All I want to do is help any way that I can for the people in Israel. And it's sometimes difficult to know what to do or how to help. And that's why I'm so grateful for organizations like JDC, whose mission it is to help the most vulnerable. Their work supporting and sustaining Israelis in need for decades, and particularly since October 7th, really inspires me. And I'm so glad we'll have the chance to learn more about it together tonight. It's also my absolute pleasure to spend Chanukah with you because it's one of my own personal favorite holidays. Its core theme, that we can be lights in the darkness if only we're brave enough, is deeply resonant for me, and of course, I love the food. There's Chanukah gelt, sufganiyot, latkes, and sfinge. I mean, what more could you possibly want? Growing up, I remember standing around with my mother and grandmother frying latkes fresh for the first night of Chanukah, and tonight I'm thrilled to make those very same potato pancakes here with you. So while I do the work peeling potatoes, I'm delighted to turn it over to Tony Award-winning singer and actor Ari'el Stachel for a special Chanukah reflection and song.
Oh, 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 oh. בחושגי ונשמתי לכל ליבי וכליותיי לכל רוחי ונשמתי השיבני הושעו ותרצה תשוב אותי נה 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 na 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 na
My name is Ari'el Stachel, and I am an actor and writer from Broadway, television, and film. The song I just sang is called L'Chayeli, which is a Yemenite Jewish spiritual that my dad played for me growing up. I have a very complicated relationship with my Yemenite heritage. On the one hand, I am so proud of the cultural traditions and what Yemenite culture stands for. And on the other hand, I spent many years of my life trying to hide and minimize my identity. After 9/11, I was teased on the playground for being Middle Eastern, And that began a decades-long journey of trying to hide my identity through high school and even college. And when I graduated my acting program in college, I started auditioning like any other actor does, and I couldn't get a job. But about a year after I graduated, my agent calls and she said, "I have an audition for you. It's for a Middle Eastern character." And I panicked because I didn't know if I was ready to be out in the world with who I was, but something inside of me forced me to go to this audition. And I remembered the song, L'Chaili. So I walked into the room and I'm shaking like any actor does, and I hear the first chord, and all of a sudden I feel calmness go through my body. And as soon as I opened my mouth, I felt my ancestors with me as I sang the song. I got my first professional job in New York City, but more importantly, I was reminded to never hide who I was again. Now, this is a challenging time for the Jewish community because many of us are struggling with our identities. How do we defend our people with this incredible onslaught of anti-Semitism? I've been looking everywhere to try to find the answers, and I wasn't successful until I spoke to a rabbi. And the rabbi came to me and he said, "You know what's missing in this entire conversation? What's missing is that Judaism is a deeply nourishing spiritual practice. It is our ancestral wisdom." And I felt my body go calm again because I realized that no politics or hate can stop us from embracing our ancestral wisdom. And if there's been anything good that's come out of the last couple of months, it's that I have never felt more connected to and embraced by the Jewish community, and I know many members of my generation feel the same way. I'm so honored to be standing with JDC, who stands for the diversity of the global Jewish community, who advocates and supports the most vulnerable among us. It reminds me that I have a responsibility as a Jewish person to continue to be loud and proud so that future generations do not face what I faced as a kid and feel the need to hide who they are. So I'm going to keep singing, and I'm going to keep celebrating our beautiful Jewish heritage. La 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 la.
Thanks, Ari'el. That was just stunning. What a beautiful song. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to get started on those latkes. Now I am doing my classic family hand-grated potato latke recipe. Nobody is gonna criticize you if you use a food processor, but using a little elbow grease makes the latkes taste extra good at the end. So I'm taking somewhere between 4 to 5 pounds of potatoes and I'm grating them on the large holes of a box grater. Any box grater will do. For many years, I used my actual grandmother's box grater. As you get closer to your knuckles, it gets to be a little bit of an exciting experience, but don't be scared and just keep grating until you get beautiful shreds of potatoes. I just had so many amazing memories of doing this with my family around Chanukah. And obviously this is an Ashkenazi Chanukah tradition, but there are Chanukah recipes from all over the world. There are Moroccan spinach, which are fried donuts for the holiday. And there are Persian sweets that are soaked in honey, all kinds of things. So, choose your own adventure. I'm doing something, especially this year, that really resonates with my own family traditions. But I love all the different Chanukah recipes that there are. While you're grating your potatoes, take your onion and grate some of that onion into the potatoes. Why? Because the acid in the onion is going to help keep that potato snowy white. The best latkes are the ones that are super crispy and golden on the outside and just snowy white on the inside. And if you take some onion and grate it in the middle of the process, you're gonna get that amazing pure white color inside your latkes. My grandma made this look so easy and she never cried when she grated the onions either. I don't know, maybe that's just Jewish fortitude. This onion is very forgiving today. Oftentimes you'll see me wearing goggles or sunglasses to try and prevent myself from crying, but you know, sweet onions work. And in a pinch, you could use shallots. You could use even scallion whites. Like you want that nice bite from the onioniness, but if you don't have a white onion, you can use something else too. See how nice and white these are staying because I added that onion into the latke mixture. Just getting to the end of this here. I find it to be kind of a meditative process. It's definitely fun if you have somebody hanging around with you so you can schmooze while you're grating your potatoes. But I mean, I just grated about 5 pounds of potatoes. It did not take me more than 5 minutes. All right, guys, now we're gonna move on to a special little secret trick, okay? If you're not ready to make your latkes right away, you can keep the shredded potatoes in cold water. So I'm going to actually cover the potatoes with cold water. You can use ice water if you want. And there's another reason why I'm doing this, which I'm going to show you in just a second. We are ready for our next step. We are going to lift the shredded potatoes out of their soaking water. So this is not something that my grandmother did in our house. This is something that I picked up in my culinary pursuits over the years. And basically what we're doing is we are rinsing the potatoes of their natural potato starch, but we're gonna then put it back into the recipe without extra moisture. So it's gonna make your latkes as crispy as possible. And see how white they are? That's what we're looking for. We're gonna let this water settle for a couple of minutes while I squeeze the moisture out of our potatoes. So I placed the potatoes inside of a very thin and clean kitchen towel. And now I'm gonna squeeze as much liquid as I can out of those potatoes. And you know, moisture is the enemy of crispiness. So in any food that you're frying, you're trying to have as little moisture as possible in the recipe. You can also do this in batches if you want to get even more liquid out of them, but this is doing a pretty good job. All right, and now we've got some really nice, fluffy, less moisture potatoes here. If all goes according to plan, some potatoes are starchier than others. I've used russet or Idaho potatoes because they have a lot of nice starch in them. I'm gonna tip the water out and I'm going to hope that there's a little layer of white sludge on the bottom of this bowl. So you wanna do this slowly so that you don't pour out all of the starch. But I do see a lovely layer of white starch at the bottom of this bowl. Can you see that? All that white starch underneath? All right guys, so this is pure potato starch here. It's really perfect for your latkes and it's gonna go right back into your potatoes. The more starch or flour you add to them, they're gonna be a little bit more dense and brittle, so you don't wanna overdo it, but you can always add a teeny bit more potato starch. I mean, you could use cornstarch, but obviously this is potatoes, so you would wanna use potato starch if you have it. And now I'm going to add some eggs here. Now I like to start with less eggs than more, because I don't want my latkes to be too soupy and liquidy. So I started with 2. And I'm gonna give this mixture a mix with my hands. You can of course use a spoon. So the mixture is nice and dry. As you can see when I lift it up, there isn't a lot of extra moisture or liquid dripping out, but I am about to add salt. And as soon as you add salt to your latke mixture, it's gonna start leaching liquid. So wouldn't say work quickly, but just know that it's gonna start developing some moisture, even though we squeezed out our potatoes. Chanukah is not a low sodium diet holiday, so please do not skimp. I'm gonna do at least a tablespoon of salt for 4 to 5 pounds of potatoes. It might seem like a lot, but it's what I feel the recipe needs. And I'm also going to add some freshly ground black pepper. People in my family are pepper hounds, so we do lots of pepper, but you can do none. Or some you could also add scallion greens, or you could throw in some shredded carrots, like kind of like whatever it is you want to do. Beautiful. I think this batter is ready to go. A lot of you might be used to a really soupy, liquidy batter. You're gonna get a lot of spattering in the pan if you start that way, and so just trust the process, and I promise between the eggs and the potato starch, these are gonna stick together. And now I'm gonna show you how I fry them. All right, you guys, the first step is to get our oil heating. I'm using not a non-stick skillet. I'm using just a plain old stainless steel skillet, which works really well for latkes and actually develops a darker, crisper crust than non-stick surface. I'm using avocado oil. It's a little bit healthier than using canola oil. It breaks down at a higher temperature, which means that it's a little bit healthier, and people are using that, but if all you have is canola or vegetable oil, do not let me stop you. We're not deep frying here. We're doing sort of what's called shallow frying or pan frying. So you only want the oil to come up about halfway of the latke. So, you know, maybe I'm just gonna start with 1/4 inch of oil. We're gonna let it heat up nicely. So I'm doing it's like a medium high. You don't need to like blast the oil super high. Your chances of the oil getting overheated are higher. So I'm kind of holding my hand over it. All right, let's try the sizzle test. I think we're good to go. All right, you guys, so I'm gonna use a cookie scoop to try and get uniformity of size. I don't personally like giant oversized latkes. I like mine to be a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna use, this is a 2 tablespoon scoop, so I'm gonna kind of double it, so it's about 1/4 cup of batter per latke. And I don't need my latkes to be perfect in sort of uniformity in size. I just like uniformity in the amount that I use for each one so that they cook evenly. And you don't want to overcrowd the pan, which means you don't want to jam all the latkes right next to each other, because that means that they're going to lower the temperature of the oil and your latkes are in danger of getting a little soggy. And I'm kind of scooping and leaving as much of the liquid as I can in the bowl, because some liquid has developed at this point. All right, so we've got 4. Now I'm going to flatten them a little bit, but you don't need to like smash them down into the pan. It's nice if they have a little bit of, you know, volume to them. And my little secret weapon is a carrot that I put into the frying oil. And this is an old Moroccan Jewish cooking trick. The carrot attracts all of the tiny particles of potato and other things to the carrot, and it keeps the oil more pure for more batches of frying. Now we're gonna just let these go for a few minutes until we flip them. And another really important thing is do not move the latkes, check the latkes, touch the latkes. You're gonna create a sear on the bottom and they're gonna release much more easily if you just let them do their thing. If you move them around, you're gonna sort of get in the way of them creating like an ability to pop out of the pan more easily and flip them. All right, we'll just give them a couple minutes. Sometimes pans have different hot spots, so sometimes in the middle of cooking, I'll rotate the pan so that the heat will be distributed more evenly. All right, this guy here has really nice deep golden shreds on the edges, so I think it's almost time to flip our front candidates. So let's give that a try. So see, it pops up nicely from the skillet. Oh yeah. It's a little light for my taste. I like my latkes darker, so I'm gonna let this one go even a little bit longer. And the top side actually does get more golden even as it's cooking on the top a little bit. Not as much as obviously if it was facing direct heat, but it will darken a little bit. What I don't like to do once I flip it is flip it back again, because I feel like at that point the latkes start to absorb oil and they can get greasy. So, you know, I can live with this for latke number 1. And I'm gonna let this one just go a little bit longer. All right, I'm gonna flip number 2. Nice, that looks great to me. All right, I'm gonna flip these back ones here. I got a really nice crust on that, I think. Oh yeah, to me that looks perfect. Deep golden brown. This one also I think is gonna be perfect as well. Yeah. Very nice. It's not latke cooking if you don't splash a little bit of oil in the kitchen. And as you can see, they just kind of sail around the skillet. You know, when you're cooking with a stainless steel pan, it's all about getting like the right amount of heat and not messing with your stuff too much, and you can create like a non-stick surface. I think in about 2 minutes, we're gonna be ready to remove our first latkes. All right, guys, there are two theories about draining latkes. Some people do it on paper towels and some people do it on a rack. I like the rack because if you let them sit on the paper towel that has absorbed all of the oil, some of the oil goes right back up into the potato pancakes. So I'm gonna put this on our rack and you're gonna see that some of the oil drips down into the rack itself. These are looking so nice and crispy. They've got gorgeous golden edges. I'm gonna let these two cook a little bit more and then we're gonna start on our second round. All right, guys, so while we finish cooking off these latkes, let's turn it over to Ari'el Stachel, JDC's CEO, for an update on global Jewish resilience and the themes that make Hanukkah extra meaningful this year.
Thanks, Adeena. Those latkes look delicious. I'm Ari'el Stachel, and I'm very proud to serve as the CEO of JDC, or The Joint, as many around the world also know us. I love taking part in this special event each year. Hanukkah is a celebration of Jewish pride and resilience, and those are values that resonate deeply with me now more than ever. I'm grateful, too, to be joined by Adeena and Ari'el as they help celebrate our global Jewish family and introduce our work at JDC to more people around the world. This Hanukkah, my heart is in Israel. Since October 7th, I've spent a lot of time in Jerusalem and all around the country. I've been struck not only by the pain, but by the promise that when we work together to sustain and empower those most in need, we can overcome so much. In my time here, I've found Israelis united and resolute, standing together to care for each other and uplift the vulnerable. That's what we do at JDC. We've worked in the land of Israel since 1914, supporting the elderly, those with disabilities, at-risk children and families, the Arab community, and ultra-Orthodox Jews. Before the war, the programs we developed reached 1 million Israelis every week. Now, we're aiding thousands and thousands of evacuees, displaced Israelis, and families facing the economic toll of this crisis. It's our responsibility to make an impact in their lives. At the same time, Jews around the world face an unprecedented wave of anti-Semitism, and we have an important role to play there too, strengthening and sustaining global Jewish communities terrified of what might come next. JDC works in 70 countries, and we're working around the clock to support Jews everywhere, from Montevideo to Mumbai. We're not powerless. That's the core notion of Hanukkah for me, that by lighting our candles, even when the world grows dark, even when we're not sure there's enough oil to last all 8 nights, we can be part of making miracles happen. We have the power to be a light in the darkness. Together, and JDC is proudly joined in our work by a coalition of partners like the Jewish Federations of North America and tens of thousands of individuals, foundations, and businesses, I know we're up to the task. Now it's my privilege to introduce Grisha Grishilo, an inspiring young Jewish leader from Odessa, Ukraine, and a dedicated participant in our leadership programs in the former Soviet Union.
Дякую, Ari'el. І мені дуже важливо сьогодні поділитися своєю історією. Бути частиною українського єврейства – це не тільки бути зараз тут. Це розуміння того, що українська спільнота євреїв, вона є частиною чогось більшого. Я народився та виріс в Одесі, в єврейській спільноті. Зараз я з вами розмовляю з прекрасного міста Трускавець, що знаходиться на Западній Україні. Я знаходжусь на великій всеукраїнській єврейській волонтерській конференції, яка зібрала більш ніж 600 українських єврейських волонтерів зі всієї України. Сумісне перебування у громаді дає мені надію, вселяє до мене оптимізм. Навіть не дивлячись на те, що моя країна продовжує боротися. Вона переживає дуже складну ситуацію. Мені дуже подобається їздити по єврейських таборах, бути єврейським освітянином, мадрихом, психологом, терапевтом, підтримувати сім'ї, дітей, підлітків, приймати участь у лідерських програмах, у програмах розвитку, програмах освіти. І багато чого з досвідом та зі своїм віком я зрозумів, що багато того, що дає мені моя громада, воно дійсно відбулося завдяки допомозі. Допомозі та партнерстві з джойнтом. Не дивлячись на те, в якій ситуації ми зараз знаходимося, я займаюся волонтерством. Це дає для мене відчуття те, що я не безсилий. Те, що у мене та моїх друзів, у мене та моїй громаді вистачить сміливості та творчого потенціалу, щоб зробити усе. Чудеса в нас разом з нами. Чудо, що в нас є такі партнери та друзі з джойнту. Це нагадує мені історію свята Хануки. Навіть маленьке світло можна проганяти велику темряву. І я на себе беру відповідальність стати одним з цих вогників, який буде проганяти пітьму. І цю Хануку, коли ви будете запалювати менору, я дуже сподіваюся, що ви будете згадувати, будете думати про мене, про моїх друзів, про нашу спільноту в Україні та про спільноту єврейської громади в усьому світі. А тепер я з задоволенням передаю слово Ari'el ще однією прекрасною ханукальною піснею. Хаг Самех.
מעוז צור ישועתי, לך נאה לשבח, תיכון בתפילתי, ושם תודה נזבח, ותכין מריח, מצם נבח, אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח, אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח.
Ariel, Grisha, and Ariel, thank you so much for being here with us and for offering us such important messages of hope this Hanukkah. As our program comes to a close, I personally want to thank each of you for spending the first night of Hanukkah together with me. Now please go visit jdc.org/Hanukkah for additional resources and ways to get involved for the next 7 nights, videos to watch, recipes to download, and more. And before I say goodbye, let's head to Israel for a truly inspiring candlelighting. Chag Sameach, and may it be a wonderful Hanukkah filled with light for each and every one of you.
תודה רבה, עדינה. אנחנו רובי ושני אדרי משדרות, והיינו בשבת של ה-7 באוקטובר בבית עם 3 ילדים, וב6:30 התחיל ככה מתח רציני וכבד של צבע אדום. בצבע האדום התשיעי הבנתי שמשהו כזה מוזר קורה.
הבנו שזה לא אותו דבר, אבל לא ידענו מה.
עשינו קידוש. 12 אכלנו סעודת שבת, סלטים, הכל התנהל כרגיל, צבע אדום נכנסים לממ"ד, כשיש בומים יצאנו החוצה ומתנהלים עם הילדים כרגיל.
בין לבין קפצתי לישיבה מספר פעמים. באחד היציאות שלי לכיוון הישיבה, אז כבר בחורים באו ואמרו לי, רובי, תקשיב, ראינו פה רכב עם מאג שעובר מרסס. אמרתי להם, מה? אין מצב, זה סדרות, כאילו, סדרות זה רק קסאמים.
לא היינו עם תקשורת במהלך השבת, לא פתחנו פלאפונים. אנשים היו בטוחים שקרה לנו משהו בגלל שאנחנו מאוד קרובים למשטרה וכולם ידעו מה קרה שם. ושם כבר הבנו את סדר הגודל של הדבר הלא נורמלי שקרה.
כן. הבנו שצריכים לסגור את הדלת, את השער,
שמנו ספה,
שולחן,
סכין לחדר.
בחג חנוכה אנחנו חוגגים את הניסים, והיו המון ניסים, היו הרבה אסונות, הרבה מקרים מאוד קשים. מקביל לכל מקרה קשה, היה נס, והיה נס, והיה נס.
לגור במלון זה דבר שהוא נשמע מפנק ל3-4 ימים, אחר כך זה כבר מורכב הרבה יותר. ראינו התנהגויות מוזרות אצל הילדים, קצת יותר קיצוניות. זה מביע את כל הלחץ והפחד שנמצא בפנים. שאלות כמו מתי חוזרים הביתה? למה לא חוזרים?
הם שומעים, הם מרגישים את האווירה. גם ראו עלינו, בסופו של דבר. רואים על ההורים הכל.
הגיע לפה צוות מהג'וינט, שהביא לנו כל מיני בובות. הם התלהבו על זה, אני יכולה להגיד שדולב שלי הקטנה היא בעיקר כל היום מחבקת את הבובה הזאת.
ישנה איתה.
ישנה איתה, כן. זאת בובה שהיא בעיקר מה שמראה עליה זה שהיא קצת עצובה וצריכה מישהו שינחם אותה, קצת כמונו בתקופה הזו. חיבוק מנחם באמת עוזר. בתקופה שלי היה את חיבוקי, אז הוא היה כזה מחבק ומנחם, וזה היה כיף שהיה לנו אותו. קצת עצוב לי לחשוב שגם הילדים שלי צריכים את הדבר הזה, אבל מזל שיש להם את זה.
אנחנו שמחים מאוד שהצטרפתם איתנו להדליק נר ראשון של חנוכה בארץ ישראל, בעיר ירושלים, עם תושבי שדרות. תודה רבה לכולכם.
שיהיה לכם חג שמח.
ברוך אתה השם, אלוקינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו פתותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של חנוכה. אמן. ברוך אתה השם, אלוקינו מלך העולם, שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. ברוך אתה השם, אלוקינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. אמן. הנרות הללו שמדליקים, הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל התשועות ועל החמות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בזמן הזה. ואנחנו רוצים לומר תודה לכל יהודי התפוצות שאיתנו בלב ותומכים בנו ואוהבים אותנו ומרעיפים עלינו וגאים בעם ישראל, גאים בארץ ישראל, גאים בדגל ישראל. תודה רבה לכולכם, בזכותכם, בזכות כל עם ישראל ינצח ויחד ננצח.